First important thing to do is get a real sharp edge on your knife. What I use is a whetstone. This is a fairly hard steel knife, so I use a very gritty whetstone, about 300 grit whetstone here. What I do is I draw it from the tip to the heel of the blade in one pass away from me with an even angle. And I will do a number of passes, being careful not to put too much pressure on the tip of your blade so you don't bow your blade across the sharpening stone. It will ultimately grind off too much steel at one point on your blade edge and create a gap, and you won't get even cuts. After I do passes on one side, I'll turn my stone and do the same amount of passes on the opposite side of my knife edge. Feeling for a little burr on the opposite side that you drew your knife edge across the stone on. When you feel that burr, you're taking that burr off with the opposite side. And then dip my stone back in the water, flip it to the smoother side, and repeat the process. Long, even draws from tip to heel of the blade. I will actually switch my whetstone out to a much finer whetstone to finish the process. That was 300 and 600 grit. This one is 3,000 and 8,000 for a softer steel knife. But with the harder steel knives, I like to finish on a very fine whetstone for a fine edge. Wet the stone again. And on the finer side, I finish the process. In order to get efficient cuts or consistent and even cuts, you should have a sharp knife. For one, a dull knife is very dangerous and inaccurate with cuts. A sharp knife will give you precise cuts and ultimately be a safer tool. And just like any other tool, keeping it maintenanced is important. Therefore, keeping a sharp knife edge is pretty much the breath of life to your knife. So maintaining it is very important. Do not use just a honing steel to sharpen your knife. It will never sharpen your knife edge once you lose it. That is just for taking the burr off your knife edge after you sharpen it on a stone. I sharpen my knives, of course, depending on how often I use them. I use them every day in a professional kitchen. It all depends on the type of steel that is in the knife too. The softer carbon steel knives, the more elements worked into the knife blade, the more reactive and softer it tends to get. Therefore, it will lose its edge quicker, but you can also bring it back quicker and get a much finer edge on a softer steel knife. So when I do use the carbon steel knives, which I do more often than not, I sharpen them every single day for about 30 seconds to a minute, and it brings my edge back.